Всем добрый день. Рады приветствовать на нашем последнем вебинаре из серии, посвященной последним инновационным решениям IBM в эру искусственного интеллекта. Сегодня у нас будет презентация на английском языке, так как к нам присоединился наш спикер из Швеции. Поэтому, да, прошу это учесть. После презентации будет, конечно, доступна запись с английскими субтитрами, как обычно, на YouTube. А сейчас мы переходим на английский и начинаем. So, yeah, hi everyone. I'm excited to present our last speaker for our webinar series, Mans, and he's gonna talk about secure your data with IBM Guardium. So, Mans, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Nick. I will share my screen. And thank you for the introduction. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, everything is perfect.
Great. So my name is Mans, and I work in IBM Security, and my role there is as a technical specialist. I think you can also say that I'm a sales engineer or pre-sale. So basically getting to go deep down with our security products, which I think is a lot of fun and does a lot of good for the companies and organizations that we cooperate with. And today's topic will be on database activity monitoring, basically securing your most critical data, the stuff that it's the data that is most important, with maybe one of our most known products in this area, Guardium or Guardium data protection. So let's dive into it. Every year we publish some data that accounts for how much it costs when a company has a breach. These digits all come from companies that are larger than 25,000 employees. And as you can see, the damages a breach does to an organization is huge. And in economic terms, a breach costs around $5 million for a larger company. And the next two digits here account for how much you can actually do if there is a breach with some small things. And for organizations that have high level of compliance in the organization, they're following a high level of compliance. We actually see that the cost of a data breach in these organizations is 2.3 million less. And also, when looking at AI and automation levels, incorporating this into the security posture as also reduces the costs a lot when there is a data breach. Another index that we present every year is our X-Force Threat Intelligence Index. And at the end of the presentation, I will also send out these reports to you so you can look at them for yourself. But another interesting aspect of a hacker attack is the result of it. And as you can see here, the two most common results of a hacker attack is that the data, there is some kind of data leak or data has been extorted. And also attacks that result in a ransom, the data being encrypted and the organization has to pay a ransom is also accounted in these two. And as you can see, it's 56% of the results of a hacker attack is actually connected to our data. So a very effective way for us to protect ourselves is to protect our data. And this is what today's webinar will be about. And we're proud to say that actually the best in the business put Guardium data protection to work. We have 4 out of 5 of the top US banks working with us, the 3 out of 5 largest US government, 7 biggest global telecom organizations, and the biggest insurance organizations, all trusting Guardium data with their most valuable data. And looking at the digits again, with Guardium, you are able to stop threats and in a proactive way before they disrupt your business. And with Guardium, you can also achieve regulatory compliance, making the cost of a breach much less. And it's all built around AI and automation. And a quick glance into Guardium and a bit of an overview into Guardium data protection. With Guardium, you first, or I would say a common way to work with Guardium is to first classify your sensitive data, then the bread and butter, monitoring your most critical data, probably your databases, and setting up different protection policies around your databases. Then also with the policies to block and detect unauthorized or suspicious activity, and all of this working with compliance to follow privacy and security regulations. Some common Guardium use cases are, as mentioned, compliance reporting. There are pre-built policies and reports for things such as GDPR, SOX, NIS2, PCI, ECFR. And you can also look at another use case is looking at the privileged users activity on your databases, connecting to what kind of suspicious activity is going on and identifying incorrect account use. For instance, if suddenly there is a privileged user logging in at nighttime off hours from the office. As mentioned, access to your sensitive data. Here, you can have a proper classification to your sensitive objects on your databases, grouping them into things such as these tables, they contain our credit card information and so on. And these groups can then be built into policies or rules that you are working with and protecting your databases with. You can also look at data modification statements, DML statements on your databases, and what kind of, if there has been some extrusion going on, some data being stolen from your databases, connecting to the most common results of a hacker attack. And with this, you can take some preventative actions to harden your security around your critical data. Things such as blocking. If there is if a user is trying to access some really sensitive data, you can block and terminate the whole session. And we'll actually, in the demo later, look at a similar scenario to this. You can also do things such as redaction, and I have an example here where if a user is asking for, let's say, credit card information, what will be returned from the database is instead just some star signs instead of the credit card digits. And maybe a more elegant way to do this is also with query rewrite, where you, if the user is asking for data from column 1, the query rewrite will make him get data from column 2 instead. So we have now looked at some overall statistics of the security landscape, and also some how Guardium connects to this, and a general top view how Guardium works and what you can do with the tool. We'll now go a bit deeper into the technicalities of the product and how Guardium actually works on the databases. So there are some different connections that you can have on your data sources. Probably the most common one, and I would say almost 100% of installations in Central Asia are using the first option here, an agent-based STAP software. And this is installed directly on the databases and then copies the traffic and sends them to the Guardium appliance. I also want to mention that there is an option to have a proxy-based solution for both container and cloud solutions, where the agent is sitting in between the connection to the cloud or client and then sends it to Guardium. And there's also an option for an agentless connection to your databases. So what you do here is activating the native logging on your databases and then sending them to the Guardium appliance. And the word of caution here is that enabling native logging on your databases will require quite a lot of CPU. So we recommend this solution mostly for less sensitive data. And again, the most elegant solution here is definitely the agent-based. And we will go into the agent-based solution a bit more now. So this is an overview of the Guardium-based architecture. You have your database servers, you have some users performing actions directly on them, maybe some application servers that are interacting in your Guardium appliance here at the top. And as mentioned, the STAP is installed directly on the databases, copies the traffic to the Guardium collector appliance, where the calculations, the policies are applied, and reports and visualizations is done on the data. And the databases and apps are actually completely unaware that the STAP is installed. And this is since the STAP is installed on the network level. And this is also a benefit for encrypted traffic. So let's say you have your application server working with an SSL connection towards your databases. The STAP actually can read the traffic after the encryption tunnel is terminated. And this is a real problem for other solutions that are out there on the market. And the STAP actually also accounts for just 1 to 3% of the CPU of the server. So it's very lightweight. And this is an example of a bit of a larger architecture. You typically want to install an STAP on every database that you want to monitor the SQL commands on. And the monitor, the STAPs then sends the traffic data to different collectors that offload. The collectors are then performing calculations and applying the policies, just as in this picture, the Guardium collector appliance. And then if there is a larger environment, you can offload reporting capabilities and have more of a top-down management and administration of your system with aggregators. And a good thing with the STAPs here as well is that you can achieve both scaling very easily and also high availability. Because what you do on the STAP is just you program it to say, I will send the traffic to this collector as a primary location, and then this collector as a secondary location, and this collector as a tertiary location. And this means that to achieve high availability, what you need is just an architecture that has n+1, which means you just need one extra collector in order to achieve high availability. And with this, we will go into the demo. I think I will update the page here because I believe I have been logged out from this system. Yes. So what we are looking at here is the log in to the Guardium collector appliance. And the first message that you are met with here is the last login. Guardium just isn't just monitoring the databases, it actually monitors itself as well. So typically what you are met with when you open up Guardium is a general workflow of how you're working with Guardium. And first of all, you want to find out if you have any databases that you are not aware of. Here, Guardium has a function that performs similar to an Nmap, a small scan on hosts and ports to find hidden databases. And this is typically used for organizations that are growing quite rapidly or doing lots of M&As. Then what we recommend is going into discover and classifying, realizing what kind of data you have lying on your databases. So let's look into that. Here there are already some pre-built scenarios for different regulations. We'll look at the GDPR one here. So what we are setting up here is a scan for our databases. We want, this is just name and description. Then we defined what kind of data we want to discover on our databases. So in this example, you can do a search both on a catalog type of data and also on data as a regular expression. So for instance, you have the rule here that searches for addresses in your databases and tries to find a column similar to addresses. And looking at a data search type instead, if you're trying to look for what kind of email data you have relying on your databases, you'll see that here we have a regular expression going on. And you can also do many different advanced searches here, such as I want the hit percentage of this table to be, let's say, 50% or something. When you have set up what kind of data you want to look for on your databases, you define where you want to search. In this example, let's just search on our 1DB2 database. You can set up when you want to run this search, and then after the discovery scan has run, you will be met with a report. And typically the workflow here is going over the policy rules, defining them, looking at what kind of report, what kind of results you're getting, and then iterating the process probably a couple of times to make sure you're getting the results you want. So with this report, then you can, with, for example, the let's say city here, you can then use this information and group it into different groups, such as geographic information. And this group you can then later use for policies, setting up a policy that accounts for all cities, all countries, all birthplaces, let's say. Going back to the main screen, what I want to show you now is probably the bread and butter of the product, monitoring and setting up policies. So protect security policies and policies for data. And here again, there are already some predefined policies for different regulations, again, GDPR, PCI, and so on. We will look at this basic data security policy. A good starting point here is usually to work with the templates, and can also be good to just define some basic policies saying these ranges of IP addresses are allowed to access my databases. And you can have several policies installed at the same time, of course. Actually, this one we will uninstall just for now. And diving into the data security policy here that we have set up, we can see that this one consists of 17 different rules. And we have we actually have 3 different rule types, but here we have exception kind of rule. If there's thrown an exception in our SQL commands on the database, typically if you have someone new working with the databases that does not belong to the organization, a hacker, let's say, when he's trying to go around on the databases, it will probably throw lots of exceptions since he's not familiar with the architecture of the database. So also a good way to start with some exception rules. Here we can look at an exception rule saying that if there is a failed login, we will alert if the same login is repeated. So we see that this has a severity of medium, and it has defined some rule criteria. And here comes the different groups that we spoke a little bit about in the classification phase. So here we have, if the databases are being accessed by one of these IP addresses in the group data privacy. Let's look at this group if it contains something interesting. So here we have just a couple IP addresses that are labeled as sensitive data databases over IPs. And when any of these IP addresses tries to log in with 3 times failed, we will perform some action, and in this case we will alert per match, and the notification here will be with syslog using leaf. And this, of course, you can customize in what kind of way you want, so you can set it up as a ticket or mail or many different things. So we looked at an exception rule. Let's also try to look at an access rule. Maybe this one. So this one says if there is a privileged user logging in, accessing the database from the group admin users, will log full details. And here we have a group that is named admin users. And this admin user group contains many different members, many different users. So if any of these are accessing, log full details. Pretty easy. Then we can also look at DML commands. So this one being, if there is someone in group sensitive objects, let's dive into it instead. So under the rule criteria again, if the object being accessed, here we don't have a session level criteria, so anyone who is accessing, if they are accessing our sensitive objects, and this is typically a good example of from the discovery phase. If you discover one sensitive object, you add it to this group of members of sensitive objects. And here you see like credit cards, customers, employees, and so on in this group. if sensitive objects are being accessed by and they are performing some kind of DML commands. What is a DML command, you might ask? Well, we'll just look at the members, and it's things such as delete, group, insert, doing things with the data, basically modifying it. If this happens, we will alert, and we'll have an alert up here on the bell. So that was basically it about policies, and we will go back to the main screen, and we'll come back for this termination policy later and try to access the database in different ways. But there are 3 more things I want to show you. So also there are some machine learning and AI analytics going on in the system. But before that, what I want to highlight is the investigation dashboard. Pretty good way to get an overview as a database admin over all of your databases in your environment. I've heard of customers that thought that they had shut down a program on a database, but later they went into this tool and realized that this program has actually been running for the last 3 months. So here you can filter, look at the data from the last 3 days, and you see our databases that we have in this environment and what kind of activities has been going on in the latest hours. You can see things such as what kind of source program has been running on the database user, and filtering it down even to what kind of verb and the server has been active here. So maybe a filter around on our Oracle database. We can see that Joe has been very active on this database. Maybe that's also expected, but I think you get the idea. It's a good way to get an overview of what's going on your databases. We can also have a look at Risk Spotter. So Risk Spotter shows you what kind of risky behaviors your users are performing on the databases, and trying to map everything together. So let's say we'll have a look here at Joe. We can see that he has performed many violations to our policies that we have set up. A bit weird. He has performed quite a lot of off-work activity. So if I was investigating this, gives me a good overview, and it's also ranked between the users here of the most critical user to the least. So if it's a good way to just jump in and see if a user is behaving a bit suspiciously. Also, we have the active threat analytics. This works on typically data that you're not really looking at with your policies. So this one tries with machine learning to find outliers in your data and connecting it all together. So here it gives you alerts of kinds such as, look at this. We have had some high volume of data extraction on our Oracle database. And you can dive into this and open it up in the investigation dashboard and diving into it. So we see the observations here: high volume of data exfiltration, exceptionally high volume of activities of some type of verb. Sometimes you also see like this user was just granted access, and then high level of data extraction took place. Typically things that like that you don't have set up a policy for yet will be flagged here. Going back to the main screen, one last thing before we go into the termination policy. Vulnerability assessment. Vulnerability assessment is a way to look from the inside of your databases what kind of vulnerabilities you have. And to the contrary of application scanner that works from the external, here we're working from the inside. And let's see if we go into our Oracle database, the results we have from our vulnerability scanner here. And the vulnerability scanner is a pretty low cost add-on to the Guardium environment. So typically most of our customers are also purchasing this. And here you get things such as how many percentages of the tests that were performed on the database are passed, how many of the CIS tests, how many of the CVE tests. Scrolling down, you see that you can see that probably this database, this Oracle database, is vulnerable to this CVE. And you also get a recommendation here to upgrade to the following version and another CVE. And then it also looks at things such as your configuration file on your database. So here it says that you have not defined how many failed login attempts that are allowed. And we recommend that you set this parameter in order to limit the number of failed login attempts before locking the user's account. So I think you get the idea that both it looks at patches, but also the configuration file from the inside to really harden your databases from external threats. Okay, we'll go back to our policies here. And as of now, we just have our basic data security policy enabled, and we'll open a terminal window. Here I am connected to our Oracle database that we saw here, and I will log in as user Joe. There we go, and we'll try to just try to get some data from this database. Maybe some credit card information. Seems like that works. Let's try to find some social security numbers. Okay, so we are just now able to get pretty much whatever data we want from this database. However, if we enable this terminate policy, let's first have a look at it. So what this policy does is that it first attaches an SGATE to the connection if there is an admin user from our group admin users connecting. And this makes the STAP work as a firewall, basically. And it will look at all the traffic that is going on in this session. And then if the user is trying to access the credit card data, we want to terminate the session. And it's also if the user is an admin user, and in this admin user group, we have already defined that Joe that we logged in as now is an admin. So, okay, we will install this policy. install first. So we can see that it has been successfully installed. We'll just disconnect from the system here. Connect as Joe again. There we go, we are connected. And now we will try to access the social security numbers again. Hopefully we will be able to access them, yes. And we will also try to access the credit card information that we just put the policy on. So if we try to access that, Joe.credit card, I will copy this as well. You see that we are actually end of file communication channel. Seems like we were logged out. And if we perform the same command again, we see that we are actually, our session has been terminated. We're not connected to Oracle database anymore. And that was basically what I wanted to show you in this demo. We gone through some overall functions with Guardium, had a look at how we are able to classify data with Discover and Classify, and the bread and butter here with the data protection policies that monitors and performs actions based on both regulations, but also what kind of rules you want to set it up with. We had a look at advanced analytics on AI and machine learning analytics that you can set up, looking at outliers in your data and also user accounts. And last but not least, we also looked at vulnerability assessment, finding and hardening your databases from both patches and also your configuration file. So with that, I want to say thank you for listening, and we have some takeaways from this webinar. If you want to book a Guardium data protection demo and maybe speak a little bit about how the licensing is done on this product, I can tell you that it's quite easy. It's just the number of STAPs you have installed on your databases servers, and you can just reach out to my colleague Katarina. And of course, if there comes up any more questions, maybe you watched this in a replay, or you thought a little bit about the presentation, just feel free to contact me. You have my mail address here, and we'll also send this out after the webinar. Oh, actually, one last thing. We can have a look here at the list of supported data sources. And as you can see, there are lots. And this is a reason of Guardium being up and running for more than 10 years in the whole world, with lots and lots of different industries. So an example here, we have the Oracle database. You just go into this page, you select on-premise and STAP, and it lists, in this example, the what kind of database version, OS version, and Guardium version that it supports. So I'll also be sending out this to you. Let's go back to the presentation. If you want to read a bit more, the Guardium data protection page, and as mentioned, the cost of a data breach report that we spoke about in the beginning, and the X4 Threat Intelligence Index from 2023. And with that, thank you very much for listening, and please feel free to post any questions you have here in the chat, and I'll try to respond to them.